Hey guys, I'm the Littlest.Viking, and this is part 2 of my Foreign Legion experience. In this video I'm going to be talking about the farm specifically. So in the last video I talked about the selection and how to get to Rouge. You typically leave Aubonne in the afternoon sometime, and you'll get to Castel, late that evening. Every 2 Rouge groups, so every 2 weeks, forms one section. And the companies alternate which company gets a section. So it starts with, the first company, first section, and then the second company, first section, third company, first section, and then back to the first company, and you do then the Dizium section, the second section, and same, it just cycles like that. And so every 2 weeks, every 2 Rouge groups make one full section. So if you're the first Rouge group and you get to Castel, you spend that week learning some of the chants, your company chant. You'll learn some drill, and you just do a little bit of revision. Nothing crazy, but you get a little bit of a head start, which is nice. I was in the second Rouge group in my section, so when we showed up, there was all the other guys from the first group. They all knew the company chant and a whole bunch of stuff already. They were all tucked away in their chambers, and it was all good. For us, it was a lot harder. So we got there the weekend the Thursday just before Christmas. So Christmas was that Sunday, I believe, and we show up Thursday evening. We get ready for bed, we go to bed. In the morning, we wake up, kind of get to know a little bit of the morning routine in Castel, and then right away it was like preparing for Christmas. We had to polish our Rangers. We had to prepare our PO, which is it's like your obstacle course uniform, but you have 2, and you use one for like the Christmas dinner and things like that. It's more of like a dressy one. So we spent the next couple days just getting ready for Christmas there. And then Christmas came around and we did the whole Christmas celebration in the Legion. It was fun, but it was also a little bit depressing as well. Like, it was my first time not spending Christmas with my own family. And that's the thing, is I'm actually very close with my family. So, and in the Legion, they're very much, they kind of want you to forget your family, and the Legion is now your family, and I just wasn't into that. So for me, it was a little bit depressing, but it was good. I'm glad I went when I did, because you'll get a Christmas present. So we actually got a couple presents here. So got a watch. Everybody got a watch, which was nice. So if you don't have a watch, go around Christmas time, you can get a free watch. We got this awesome towel, which everybody used at the farm. It soaks up. It was a really good towel. And then you get a case for your kepi. That was also really sweet and handy, because this costs like 20 or 30 euros at the store that's in Castel. So that saves you, some money right there getting that. So that definitely was really nice. You always leave to the farm the Monday after the second Rouge group gets there. From what I saw, that's how it went. So we spent some of that weekend as well preparing kit and stuff. You get issued a bunch of you'll get like a duffel bag, or kind of like a quick bag thing, full of like a bunch of different stuff, like compass, batteries, your chant books, your carnet de legionnaire, various things. And you actually have to pay for that. You don't know that at the time, but you actually pay for that out of your own pocket. And I think it runs you roughly, it's like 200 euros or something. It's ridiculously expensive. Yeah, you're expected sometime during the farm to have to go pay what you owe for all that gear. Don't spend all your money every chance you get, because there will be unexpected things that pop up throughout your time there that they all of a sudden say, oh yeah, by the way, you owe us 20 euros. Or, oh yeah, you owe us so many euros. A lot of guys, they're going to spend their money every single chance they get, and then when it comes time to have to pay 20 euros for something, they're going to be borrowing from guys and you don't want to be in the boat where you're borrowing money from someone. Just trust issues, you know. Like a lot of guys there are, you know, they'll steal from you, like clothes, money, just whatever chance they get, they'll take it. So it's really, you gotta really look after yourself. Make sure you're always locking your stuff up. You know, that's extremely important. So now it's Monday. You're about ready to go to the farm. So in the morning, you'll get issued your rifle, your FAMAS. You get that, and all your kits loaded up. You get on the bus, and you go to the farm. Each company, you know, Premier, Dizium, and Toisium, they all have different farms, so everyone goes to a different place. I was in Toisium company. I only have experience at the Toisium company farm. I don't know what the other farms look like. We did go to the Kick farm, but that was just for a day. We were practicing with some of the corporals. So the first thing that happened when we got to the farm was the bus dropped us off at the driveway that was unable to get down to completely to the farm. So we had about an 800-meter walk or so from where the bus was to the farm. Everybody got to the farm, and then right away, you know, everyone dropped our kit, and we started getting told what our groups within the section were. So we started breaking up into our groups. Once for the groups and everything were established, then, you know, you get issued your chamber. So you find out where you're sleeping, kind of putting all your kit down and stuff. And then we ended up going on a run right away up the hills. And the terrain out there is insanely hilly. So if you are not used to running or marching on hills and stuff, get some practice in. You know, I was definitely underprepared for the terrain. You know, if everything had been flat, you know, like if you're from North America here, you know, we don't have quite as many hills and mountains depending on where you're growing up in. It's just a different terrain. But over there, it's rolling hills non-stop. Everything is up, down, up, down, up, down. So you'll be doing a lot of that. Yeah, so one of the first things we did was go for a run around the whole farm. And that winded quite a few guys, and it was just like, that was day one, you know. We were all a little worried after that. You start organizing all your kit. So you'll have all your bags, you'll bring out all your bags outside or wherever. For us, we did it outside, and you'll basically pull everything apart, and then they'll tell you, they'll hold something in the air and say, you know, everyone hold this up. So everyone holds up that item, and then they tell you where to put it, which bag to put it in. So you go through all your kit and you just pack everything exactly how they want it to be packed. And one of the other crazy things is, like in the Legion, like it's very different from a regular military, is every day your weapon gets locked up. So every evening you will turn your weapons into an armory, and every morning, not every morning, but most mornings, you will go and you will draw your weapon, or in the afternoon or whenever. You typically don't have your weapon on you if you're not doing anything weapon related that day. That's due to so many guys running away and leaving. It never happened in my section or my company, but Dizium company, there was a section that had a candidate run away with his rifle during a module. So now at the farm, right away you start getting weapons training. Like I think day one, you know, right in the morning, we started learning about the FAMAS. And you'll start learning your weapon safety, you'll start learning, you know, kind of shooting and things like that. You won't do any shooting, but they will give you blank rounds almost within the first couple days, and you'll start practicing drills and different things. And that's basically, most of your days will consist of some sort of weapons training or some sort of kind of patrolling or something. So a typical day at the farm, roughly it looks like wake up around 5:30, and then the first thing you do when you wake up is you shave, and you sort of kind of half-ass prepare your where you were sleeping. Like we had to flip our sleeping bags inside out and have everything tucked all nice, so you can kind of prepare that just so that your whole place is looking good. And then you form up outside right away. They'll say everybody outside. So you form up outside, and then you stand there, and then usually the sergeant of the day and the corporal of the day will be in charge of you, and then you go for breakfast, which is still just a piece of bread. And so how it was they would put big loaves of bread, baguettes, on the tables, and so many per table. And then you'd have to divvy these baguettes up among, like, we'd have to physically cut them ourselves to have a piece for everyone at the table. And you're gonna have a lot of guys who are stealing, trying to get more bread. It's pretty dog eat dog when everyone's fighting for food. And later on, you'll be hungry all the time. Like, that's one of the biggest things at the farm, is you're just always hungry. You're not allowed to steal food. You're not allowed to, even just like a jam, taking an extra jam in the morning and putting it in your pocket and eating it later. Like, that's huge repercussions for the entire section if someone's caught doing that. And that's every single meal. You'll have a baguette, and it's divvied up amongst each other. Just at breakfast, that's the only time where you just have the baguette, no other food. Right after every single meal, so breakfast, lunch, and supper, you have corvée chambre, and the different sections in charge of different things for the day do other cleanup. You always have corvée quartier right after lunch sometime, where you do a sweep of the whole grounds, picking up cigarette butts, whatever. After breakfast, the one thing you may or may not have is inspections. Sometimes it'll be the chef de section will come through, or just your chef de group, or whoever. Someone will come through, do a quick check. And now one thing, like, I've spent some time in the Canadian Forces as well, and an inspection, in Canada, as opposed to one over in the Legion, very, very, very different. And one of my corporals actually on my course, he used to be a U.S. Marine, and he talks about even, same thing. The inspections here in North America are they're way stricter, they're way more hardcore. Over there, it's very, very half-assed. It's very half-assed, so your inspections are very unpicky. A lot of times they're just looking for contraband. So like if you've stolen food or anything like that. So now after you've done that, you usually go back outside. It's still very early in the morning. You go back outside and you march around the farm, and you practice your company chant. And you'll do that right up until you have the raising of the colors. So you'll march till about, the sun will just kind of be coming up. At least I was there in January. So at about the time the sun was just coming up, we marched in front of the colors, and we did a little morning ceremony with the color raising and stuff. And then right after that, we either had PT, some sort of physical training, or it was right into the classes for that morning. And typically, so if you didn't have PT, it was right into classes, typically till lunch. And if you did have PT, you would go do that for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, depending. It was usually group based, so it was never the entire section. Sometimes it was, but it was more or less it was group based for us. So some groups got back, a little bit earlier, other ones got back a little bit after, and then you usually go through about a 10-15 minute stretching after your run or whatever it was you were doing. And then it's right away you go to the shower and you get ready. Training for the day is also group based as well. So if you have a class or if you have whatever, it's usually you go out and you learn it as a group. So all your weapons training, your practicing, your patrolling, everything will be taught in a group format. Outside of the group format, there is some classes where everyone learns together. That would be compass, your radios, the obstacle course. You usually kind of learn it together. Your chanting, a lot of that kind of like the really big group stuff, where they didn't need to micromanage maybe so much, is done as the entire section. So the lunch routine is at lunchtime. You put everything back in your chamber, and you form up with your canteen, your fork, your knife, your spoon, your canteen cup, all that. You form up, and you have to do the entire Legionnaire's Code of Honor, and then after that, or like you do it until they're happy with you having done it. So sometimes you restart multiple times, and then you file down and go have lunch. After lunch, it's usually it's corvée again, and then there's usually some revision. So if you're not doing corvée, because it's usually specific people doing corvée every day, or however you've decided amongst yourselves how you're gonna do it. But usually the guys who aren't doing corvée, usually that time is spent doing revision. So you're gonna be remembering, like going over the French, going over just the new commands, just the weapon drills. You have to memorize all the weapon parts, a lot of that kind of stuff. So after that, then you have your regular, you go back into your classes and stuff again. So whatever you're learning that day or for the afternoon, it's usually some more classes, and that's usually right up until supper. And then of course after supper again, you've got corvée, and then sometime also after that you have more classes in the evening. Usually it'll be a French class, or it'll be a revision of some sort, or it'll be like learning chants. And then after that you have, of course, you go to bed, and every day a different group will be in charge of guard shift that night. So 2 people every, they'll take however many hours you're allotted for sleep, and then they'll take however many guys are in your group, and you'll be by 2, so you'll do it in pairs, and however many pairs there are, they'll just divide the overall amount of sleep by that many pairs. So you could have a guard shift anywhere from 1 hour till up until 2 hours. On average, your guard shift's going to be about an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30. So and that happens every single night. At the farm, the big things you're going to be doing a lot of running, and you're going to be doing a lot of marching. So sometime in the first week, you're going to go on your first march. Ours was about 8K, and it was awful. It was the first 8K march, and it was just brutal. Your body's so unaccustomed to it, and yeah, it was crazy, and it was up hills, and it was all over. But after that, the marches will get progressively longer. I think after that we did like a 12-kilometer one, and then it was up to 20, and then by the end of the 4 months, on average, the marches were about 30K. And then of course you've got your raid march at the end of all your training, which is longer, and it's over 3 days. So there's lots of marching, lots of running, that you're going to start getting into that at the farm. The big thing with the Legion that's very different from other militaries is the training is very much based on the section. So who's in charge of your section will decide more or less how your stuff is broken up, what they want you to learn, spend more time learning. There's things that we learned that other people didn't learn. There's things that other people learned that we didn't learn. So it's really all over the place. There's not like a real standard here for it. Your experience could be very different from what I'm saying. That's why I'm just trying to be general in just what you're going to be learning. As for the actual order of what you're learning and everything, that's going to be very different. Some sections don't, like, we weren't allowed to eat any chocolate bars once ever, and one of my corporals was telling me on his section they didn't care, and all of their sergeants would sell the kids chocolate bars because they wanted them so bad, so they would sell them for like €2, so they'd make €1 on all their stuff. So different sections just run totally different. A big part of the farm will be a lot of weapons. So you do, besides the FAMAS, you learn the grenade, you learn the rifle grenade and the grenade, although that will be changing in the near future as the Legion will be getting the new HK416, so there will be no more use for the rifle grenade anymore. However, that was a part of our training, was we used the rifle grenade and regular grenades, as well as just regular FAMAS. The majority of your FAMAS training is just weapons handling, tearing it down, putting it back together, tearing it down, putting it back together, all that. Patrolling and combat tactics. You also do very, very little weapons cleaning in the Legion. It is and since your weapon is not on you all the time, you don't spend a lot of your off time when you're in shacks cleaning your weapon. So that's something that is very different than another military as well. We only typically cleaned our weapons after we'd shot a lot of rounds or anything, or we'd been training with blanks all day or something. And one of the other big things you'll do is map and compass. So getting comfortable with the map and compass, learning how to use azimuth, things like that, figuring out where you are. And you'll do various challenges where you have to run around and find different points, and there'll be clippers. You got to check points, and you'll be timed for a lot of this. You'll go on anything from a small little 3-kilometer kind of scavenger hunt to an 8-kilometer one, looking for various points on a map using a map and compass. French classes start at the farm. Your obstacle course, which you'll start learning at the farm, but it doesn't really become important until later on when you're in Castel, and you'll do your testing on the obstacle course in Castel. Radios is fairly important. You got to know that. Chance is also a very big part of being at the farm. Depending on the time of year that you go, in the wintertime it will be very cold. In the summertime, I imagine it would be a lot nicer. However, I would recommend going around Christmas time, as it is a lot slower, and there's more of a chance of you're going to get picked, more than likely. And as well, just having got the gifts that we got for Christmas, we did get the watch. However, my section, and this is another thing, like I said, the sections are all very different. We were the only section in all of Castel that wasn't allowed to wear watches. So we weren't allowed to wear a watch starting from the day we showed up in Castel until just before we left Castel and went back to Bonne after we'd finished training. Whereas all the other sections all were allowed to wear watches still. The only time we were ever allowed to have a watch was during guard duty. The corporal would give us a watch just so we could keep track of the time, but then we had to return it in the morning, of course. And there's very few clocks, if any, around any of the buildings or rooms in the Legion. One of the things definitely though about the farm that I did miss, especially in the following months, was the food. You're hungry all the time, but the food is just a lot better than the food in Castel, and that's how I found it, at least. With the marching, you'll do, every time you do a march, you typically will camp outside that night as well. So we were doing the marches on every weekend. In the first week, we learned how to quickly set up a tent with our ground sheet, bungee cords and stuff. And then the following couple days, we went out on our first march, and then we camped up. We camped up on the top of a hill for the night. It's nice because when you finish a march, though, you usually have a bonfire and everyone kind of hangs out, and it's a little bit more relaxed, but not a ton relaxed. Like, you're still gonna get punished all the time. Like, lots of push-ups, lots of running around, lots of rifle over your head. It was winter time when I went, so lots of just making us go stand out in the cold, things like that. So the punishment and corporal punishment is very real in the Legion still. It is, you don't see a lot of it, but it is a very real factor in the Legion. The last thing you do when you leave the farm is you have your Marche Kepi Blanc, and that's a 50-kilometer march or more over the course of 2 days. It's roughly within 24 hours realistically. We left after lunch the first day and got back to Castel at around lunchtime the second day. You get to have a sleep in the middle. So that final march is leaving the farm and going back to Castel, and switching from an engagé volontaire to a legionnaire. That about sums up, the farm. So if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best I can to get back to everyone. Yeah, come back for video 3 when I talk more about life in Castel.